G'day, I'm Bob Brown, and at the moment the whole country's looking at the progress of so-called new environment protection laws through or into and then through the federal parliament. Murray Watt, the Minister for the Environment, is bringing those in on Thursday and will be speaking at the National Press Club about them. Well, here's a little summary of what's going on here. First of all, we need to look at what the threat of the current spiral down of the world's ecosystem, which maintains all life, including ours, is. And if you go to Exeter University and the UK Faculty of Actuaries, these are people who look at risk assessment, economic risk assessment included. They reckon that by 2050, if we go to 2 degrees warming, and I think we're going to overshoot that by quite a bit, there'll be a 25% collapse in the global domestic economy, that is GDP on a global scale, and 2 billion, B for billion, people dead. Let me go a little further on the same assessment. You can look it up. By 2070 to 2090, that's in the lifetime of our kids, there'll be a 50% collapse in global economic produce and 4 billion people, half the world's population, dead due to the catastrophic consequences of us not dealing with climate change. And yet, Minister Watt, Prime Minister Albanese's government, has refused the Greens' request to have a climate trigger in this new legislation. That is, to be able to assess and put an end to excessive greenhouse gas producing entities like coal mines, gas fracking, oil extraction, and of course, burning and destruction of forests and woodlands. And when it comes to the latter, it appears this legislation is not going to put an end to native forest logging or woodland destruction, and with it, the biggest source of destruction of habitat of hundreds of threatened birds, animals, insects and other creatures just here in Australia. When it comes to that climate trigger again, this legislation doesn't even require Woodside and the big other fossil fuel corporations to assess how much greenhouse gases more will be put into the atmosphere by their exports overseas of Australian coal and gas. Of course, Adani won't have to do it either. In other words, this legislation is not fit for purpose. It's not looking at the real circumstances that we're facing here on the planet. It's not looking at the march to extinction, as so much of Australia's wildlife, both in our oceans and on our lands, let alone in Antarctica, and it's really not looking at the catastrophic consequences for human society, measured, as I said, by some of the world's experts at Exeter University. Well, we're going to take it on. We back the Greens, taking a strong stand to see that this is legislation that does protect the environment, that does protect our future, that does protect our wildlife. But be ready. There's going to be a lot of debate about this in the coming weeks and months. Get to your local MP and ask them to be serious about this and to make sure that this is environmental protection legislation, not just there for the Business Council of Australia and the Mining Industry Council, whose views Murray Watt puts before our foundation, for example. He's not talking with us, but he's talking to them in drawing up this legislation. It's the wrong process, and it's a disastrous outcome as we see it. Well, we'll keep you posted. There's going to be a lot more of this, It is serious stuff. It's not elevating, but we're here to get a better outcome for our nation, for our planet, and for our kids' future, and for our fellow creatures. Be with us in this ride to put pressure on our national government to be a world leader in protecting the environment instead of a vassal of the big fossil fuel and logging corporations. That's what we're asking of them. That's sensible, that's responsible, and come with us to see that we get that sort of outcome which secures the future instead of selling it out. See you along the way.